WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American in Germany tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. I don't know how rare and exotic this is, but I have Glenmorangie Signet. So many people ask me about my opinion of Signet, so I finally broke down and bought the bottle here. So this was bottled on the 27th of May 2020, so one of the most recent bottles out there. 144 euros 50, whiskey base number 165539, and 46% and no age statement. Massive wood here, very, very luxurious. You open it up with a magnet here on here, putting this together. You pull out the bottle, which is an piece of art itself. Look at that. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Listen to this. Yeah, so very, very nice. High quality here. Wonderfully designed. Even here, the cork. This feels like it's ceramic. It almost feels like it's here marble, but it's ceramic, has a high... Everything about this bottle is just first class. Well, Louis Vuitton Monet Henness, LVMH is the owner of Glenmorangie, and that's something I can absolutely just do. I already have a little bit left over from my video in German, so sorry about that. Signet. Signet is actually this thing here. It's actually a geometric base figure. And this is actually taken from the base of the Hilton of Cadboll stone, which is a relic that was found in the UK, and they actually took this little bottom part here and put it on there. Well designed. So this is actually a whiskey that is no age statement. There are rumors that there's older whiskeys in here, maybe even 30. I've heard 40 years of age. Now, for me, as a whiskey tuber, this whiskey is at least 3 years old. It's a no age statement. That's all it is. It says it's a single malt Scotch whiskey. It's at least 3 years old. No information here of anything about age whatsoever, unfortunately. So, as I said, I paid about 144 euros for this. And what happened was Dr. Bill Lumsden, way back when, actually was drinking a cup of Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee. And he said, why don't I create a whiskey that tastes exactly like this? Ta-da! Many years later, he has this. How did he do it? So he wanted to basically reimagine mocha with a butterscotch note added. Now, as I said, he uses the bourbon casks, he uses the virgin oak casks, and he also uses the sherry cask to actually round out this taste profile. Now, I need to take you in one little direction. I need to remind you, maybe help you understand for the first time, what is malted barley. Malted barley is barley, like a grain that grows like wheat and other things. Barley is a grain that has been used for thousands of years to make alcoholic beverages. Even way back in ancient Babylon, they would bake a bread, they would put it in water, and that process would actually convert the starch into sugars. If you added yeast, ta-da, you'd have some type of fermentation. Now, back then, they didn't have a package of yeast like we did, but yeast was just naturally in the air, as it is still today. So what we have are different styles of malted barley. So we have different levels of malt. I'm going to try to explain it as if you had a toaster. Now, I have a toaster. I have 6 settings. I have 7. I have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You put the toast in, you put it at 1, it comes out, it's hot. There's no brownness whatsoever created there. And what we do with malting is we actually try to trick the barley into thinking it's spring. So when it's spring, what happens is you have some moisture, you have some heat, and therefore the grain thinks, oh, it's time to sprout. And right before we really sprout, we actually stop that process. There's more enzymes in there. There's more sugar in the barley than before, and the starch had naturally been converted somewhat. And we stop it by adding heat. So first of all, you add a little bit of warmth, you add a little bit of moisture, the barley thinks it's time to sprout, you stop that process by adding heat. And you have something called Pilsner malt. Pilsner, we know from our beer, we use that a lot. And it's just barely enough heat to stop the process. Good job. We can put a little bit more heat Turning my toaster up to 2 or 3, we have something called a pale malt. Pale has more heat added to it than Pilsner. Didn't know that. The next one we have is the next level, maybe turning up to 3. It would be a mild malt. There we have some type of nutty characters. Very, very good. The next one we do is amber. Amber, from the nutty, it turns into something bitter. So maybe we're at number 4. And there we have up to 150 to 160 degrees Celsius that we actually use to start to toast that malt. The next level is brown malt. So actually you can see a big change in the color between mild malt. Amber is a little bit of it's like a suntan a little bit, and then brown turns into actually brown. And that is actually the next level. And then the next level is chocolate malt. And Dr. Bill used chocolate malt here. Chocolate malt is toasted so much that there are no enzymes left in this malt to actually start the malting or the mashing process. Not malting, mashing. So what is mashing? Oh, by the way, there's actually another level above that. It's called black malt. And the black malt is over 200 degrees Celsius and actually has a little bit of an ashy type of taste to it. And all these different types of malt you can use in craft beer. All right, you can also, anything you use in craft beer, you could actually use in whiskey as well. So what we have here is a process of converting starch into sugar. Chemistry class for 1 minute. And this process, this enzyme that we need for this process is called amylase. All right, amylase that's what happens in mashing. What do you do in a mash tun? You heat it up, you add water, and actually that's enough to create the process of turning those starches into sugars. And what happens in a washback? You put that in, you put in the yeast, ta-da! The yeast eats the sugar and turns it into alcohol, yay! So we have starch, which we need to turn into sugar, mashing, and the sugar turns into alcohol, fermentation. All right, so the entire process of the starch being turned into sugar could also be called hydrolyze. I'm still learning my chemistry here. Sorry if I did not get it perfect. Okay, now, since there are no enzymes in chocolate malt that can still be activated, you need to actually, as a whiskey processor or whiskey producer, actually have a certain percentage of chocolate malt. This is not 100% chocolate malt. This is, I'm going to guess, I couldn't find any information online, 20% chocolate malt and 10% normal malt. Normal would be, in this case, probably a Pilsner. Might actually be a pale, but who knows what they took. Malt, we have different varieties or varietals of malt. We have Golden Promise. We have all these other things that you could be using here. Odyssey, and all these different things that have been used over the last decades or two, basically just to increase yield. What is yield? More alcohol per ton. So when I put my barley into the mash tun and into the fermenter, at the end I have more alcohol. That's what we want. We want efficiency in these big distilleries. Not actually, we're not training, or we're not modifying, or we're not breeding our barley to be tasteful. We're making it to be more and more efficient, unfortunately. And by the way, chocolate malt is very inefficient. You lose a lot of your yield by doing that because, hey, there's not enough sugar left in there. Because of the heat process, you've taken away some of that. But you do add something. You do add mocha. You add espresso, and you add chocolate, dark chocolate type of coffee moments. And that's exactly what Dr. Bill Lumsden wanted. He wanted Jamaica Blue Mountain coffee in a glass. Ta-da! I actually have smelled it the entire time. Now, history lesson is over, and also chemistry lesson is over, and almost basically my entire review is over. Why? I don't like coffee. All right, so I tried to give you as much added value as possible to this video without actually banging on this whiskey, because this is not my wheelhouse. I detest coffee. I was walking along in a mall one day. On the one side of the mall, we had a coffee shop where they actually grounded the coffee. I'd walk to the other side of the mall. I just don't like the smell of coffee. I'm a weirdo. I don't drink beer. I don't like beer either. I don't like the taste of beer. I do not like the hops in the beer. Yucky, yucky, yucky. And so this is my problem. So if I smell this, I smell mocha. This is a very, very well-designed whiskey. Unfortunately, not in my wheelhouse, not in my flavor profile. This was not designed for me. This was designed for hopefully you. So I'm going to try it very briefly and then give my notes to this, and I'm going to sign off. Now, one interesting thing is someone said if I'm going to compare this, this is almost in the same league as Johnnie Walker Blue Label. Yes, from the price it is. Try that. It's a little bit smoky. It's a different whiskey. What do you want? Do you want a peated whiskey or do you want a espresso in your glass? Or you could compare it to a Macallan 18, which is much more expensive. At least over here, I'm paying twice the price for a Macallan 18 as I would for the Signet. The Macallan 18 has a beautiful, beautiful sherry. It's sherry in a glass. It's beautiful. It's well done. Very well made. Totally overpriced. But hey, we're in that league here, even though it is a no-age statement, unfortunately. In Germany, we have a special release at the moment, a 19-year-old from a warehouse, 600, 700 euros. The 19-year-old is cheaper than this. The 18-year-old is cheaper than this. Everything else I can buy over here in Germany from the normal Glenmorangie range is cheaper than this. This is the super premium league, and it looks it, it feels it. It might actually taste the same way. Yeah, mocha. Wow, the mocha, the espresso gets stronger towards the end. If that's what you want, this is what you have to have. Now, I've actually smelled chocolate malt. I smelled brown malt. I've actually smelled black malt. It tastes exactly like the brown malt that I had around. I've actually tasted it. I was like, oh wow. The flavor of that malt went from the grain to the glass. Beautifully done, if that's what you want. Dr. Bill, good job. You did exactly what you wanted. Congratulations. Not my cup of tea. My personal tasting notes is this is a D because I don't like coffee. This is a value for money, an F, because I don't like coffee. Other people are going to give this an B. Other people are going to give it a value for money for a C. They're going to love this and just enjoy this. This is something it has to have the taste for. I don't. So sorry. All right, question of the day is what other whiskeys do you know of that actually have that mocha, that espresso, that coffee moment as well? For me, it's going to actually serve as a warning. Avoid those whiskeys. Other people are going to read those and say, hey, I want to try that. The Signet is a little bit out of my price range, but maybe there's something else out there at maybe $70 or $50, even something even less where you go, oh, that exactly has a very, very similar taste profile. So please write down in the chat what other whiskeys have that mocha espresso coffee note in them and you can recommend. Thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe, tell others. Thank you very much. WhiskyJason here. Bye-bye.